Now let me talk to you for a minute, because this right here is important. A lot of people think keeping a man interested means texting him all day, checking in every hour, explaining yourself, over communicating. That's not power. Power is knowing what to say and when to say it. See, men don't fall because of long speeches. Men fall because of short moments that hit them in the chest. One good text can sit in a man's mind while he's driving, while he's working, while he's laying in bed staring at the ceiling. And that's what we're talking about today. Men respond more to emotion than information, and that right there changes everything about how you communicate with him. See, most people think the goal of a text is to explain yourself, to be clear, to say exactly what you mean. But men don't connect through explanations. They connect through how something makes them feel. You can send a perfectly logical message and still leave him cold, but one emotional line, said the right way, can stick in his chest all day long. When a man reads a text, he's not analyzing grammar or structure. He's reacting to energy. He's asking himself one question without even realizing it. How does this make me feel? Does it make him feel appreciated, respected, intrigued, calm, confident? Or does it make him feel pressured, confused, or responsible for your emotions? The feeling is what stays with him, not the words themselves. That's why emotional intelligence matters more than clever wording. A text doesn't have to be deep or dramatic to be powerful. Sometimes it's the simplest message that lands the hardest because it touches something emotional. Men remember how a woman makes them feel about themselves. If your words make him feel relaxed, capable, admired, or understood, he'll replay them in his head without trying to. A lot of women overload men with information, thinking clarity equals connection. But too much information overwhelms a man's emotional space. He doesn't want a paragraph explaining everything that went wrong, everything you're thinking, and everything you need from him. That turns the text into work. And anything that feels like work, emotion, on the other hand, feels natural. It flows. It invites. When you text from emotion, you're not asking for reassurance. You're sharing a moment. You're not trying to convince him of anything. You're letting him experience something. A simple message that carries warmth, humor, appreciation, or calm confidence hits deeper than a long explanation ever could. It feels easy, and men gravitate toward what feels easy. Another thing to understand is that emotion doesn't mean drama. Emotion can be peaceful. It can be playful. It can be grounded. Drama pushes a man away, but emotional balance pulls him closer. When your words sound secure and emotionally steady, a man feels safe engaging with you. Safety is powerful. Men don't talk about it, but they crave it. The text that makes a man think about you all day is the one that leaves him in a good emotional state. He remembers the feeling and associates it with you. That's how emotional attachment forms quietly. He might not even realize why you're on his mind, but you are. And here's the real secret: emotion gives room to step forward. When you don't overload him with information, he fills in the space. His mind completes the picture. He starts thinking about what you meant, how you felt, what you might say next. That's how emotion keeps working long after the phone is put down. This is why tone matters more than timing. You could send the same words at two different emotional states and get two completely different reactions. When your energy is calm and centered, your text carries weight. When your energy is anxious, even kind words feel heavy. Men sense that. They may not name it, but they feel it. Emotional maturity shows up in how little you need to say to create impact, and that restraint is what separates powerful communication from forgettable noise. That quiet confidence is what keeps his thoughts circling back to you repeatedly all day. Mystery keeps a man mentally attached long after the conversation ends, and most people don't realize how powerful that really is. When everything is explained, defined, and laid out clearly, there is nothing left for the mind to do. A man closes the message, puts the phone down, and moves on. But when something is left just slightly open, his mind stays engaged. He keeps thinking, replaying, and wondering, and that's where emotional attachment quietly begins. Men are naturally wired to pursue what isn't fully revealed, not because they like games, but because their minds respond to challenge and curiosity. When a message gives him just enough to feel something, but not enough to fully understand everything, it creates a mental loop. His brain goes back to it, trying to complete the picture. That's why mystery works better than reassurance. Reassurance ends the story. Mystery keeps it going. A powerful text doesn't answer every question. It sparks one. It doesn't explain your feelings in detail. It hints at them. When you leave a little unsaid, you give him space to imagine, and imagination is far stronger than explanation. What he imagines often feels more personal than anything you could have spelled out. Many people mistake mystery for being distant or cold, but that's not what it is. Mystery is warmth without overexposure. It's presence without pressure. It's letting your personality show without handing over your entire emotional world in one message. A man feels invited, not overwhelmed. He senses there is more to discover, and that makes him lean in. The reason mystery sticks in his mind is because his brain wants resolution. When something feels incomplete, the mind keeps returning to it. That's why he thinks about the message while driving, during meetings, or late at night. Not because you said a lot, but because you said just enough. The silence after the message does part of the work for you. Another important part of mystery is restraint. Just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. Holding back isn't weakness, it's awareness. When you don't rush to respond, don't over-explain, and don't chase clarity, you communicate confidence. Confidence is magnetic. A man senses when a woman is comfortable with space, and that comfort makes him curious. Mystery also protects your emotional value. When everything about you is immediately available, it can be appreciated, but it isn't pursued. When parts of you are revealed slowly, they are valued more deeply. Each interaction feels meaningful instead of routine. That sense of depth is what keeps a man emotionally invested. And here's the part most people overlook. Mystery allows him to step forward emotionally. When you don't fill every gap with words, he fills them with effort. He asks questions. He reaches out. He initiates. That makes him feel involved rather than passive. Men bond through involvement. The more he feels like he is discovering you rather than being handed everything, the more attached he becomes. Mystery isn't about manipulation. It's about self-respect. It's knowing that you don't need to perform, explain, or prove anything to hold someone's attention. Your calm presence and selective sharing do that naturally. When a man senses that there is depth beneath your words and that not everything is immediately accessible, his mind stays engaged. He keeps thinking about you because there's something unfinished, something intriguing, something he wants to understand better. That quiet curiosity is what keeps him mentally connected long after the text ends. The right words at the right time can replay in a man's mind all day, and timing is often more powerful than the message itself. You can say something meaningful, but if it's said at the wrong moment, it loses its impact. Men are highly responsive to emotional timing, even if they don't consciously recognize it. When a text arrives at a moment when he is relaxed, reflective, or winding down, it settles deeper. It doesn't feel like noise. It feels personal. Timing is not about strategy or calculation, it's about awareness. It's understanding that a man's emotional doors are not always open. When he's stressed, busy, or overwhelmed, his mind is in problem-solving mode. At those moments, emotional messages can feel heavy, even if they're kind. But when his guard is down, when he's in a neutral or calm state, your words land softly and stay with him. A well-timed message feels natural, almost effortless. It doesn't interrupt his world, it blends into it. He reads it, and instead of rushing past it, he pauses. That pause is where the impact happens. His mind registers the feeling, and that feeling lingers. He might not reply immediately, but the message stays with him longer than you expect. Another part of timing is knowing when not to speak. Silence, when used with confidence, can be louder than words. Men often reflect more during quiet moments than during constant communication. When you don't fill every space with messages, your words stand out when they do arrive. Scarcity creates value. When your texts are not constant, they are noticed. The right timing also shows emotional maturity. It communicates that you respect his space and your own. You're not texting to seek reassurance or attention. You're sharing a moment because it feels right. That energy is felt immediately. A man can sense when a message comes from calm confidence rather than emotional urgency. Calm confidence creates trust, and trust deepens emotional connection. A powerful text at the right time often becomes a reference point in his day. He might remember it during a stressful moment at work or when something reminds him of you. It becomes associated with comfort, warmth, or curiosity. That association is what keeps you on his mind without effort. Timing also allows your message to feel exclusive. When a man senses that you chose that moment intentionally, the message feels personal, not rushed, not reactive, just present. That makes him feel considered, and feeling considered is rare. People remember how you make them feel seen. Another subtle aspect of timing is emotional alignment. When your message matches the emotional tone of the moment, it feels harmonious. A light, playful text when he's relaxed can lift his mood. A calm, supportive message when he's reflective can deepen connection. Matching the moment shows awareness, and awareness builds attraction. When timing is right, you don't need many words. One line can do the work of a paragraph. That's because the emotional door is already open. Your words don't have to push, they simply enter. And once they enter, they stay. He replays them because they fit naturally into his emotional rhythm. Men often don't talk about why a message stays with them. They just know it does. They find themselves thinking about it later, wondering about the tone, the intention, the feeling it created. That's the power of timing. It turns a simple message into a lingering presence. When you understand that, you stop trying to say more and start choosing when to say less. And that quiet precision is what makes your words echo in his mind long after the conversation has paused. Confidence in your tone matters more than the length of the message, because tone carries your emotional position. A man doesn't just read what you say, he feels how you say it. Two women can send the exact same words and get completely different reactions simply because the tone behind those words is different. One sounds secure and self-assured, the other sounds uncertain or seeking. Men respond to the feeling beneath the message long before they respond to the message itself. When your tone is confident, your words feel grounded. They don't rush. They don't beg for validation. They don't ask him to fix something or fill an emotional gap. A confident tone suggests that you are already complete, already steady, and simply choosing to share a moment with him. That energy is attractive because it removes pressure. Men relax around confidence. They don't feel responsible for managing your emotions. Length often becomes a substitute for confidence. When someone isn't sure how they're being received, they tend to say more. They explain, clarify, soften, and over-justify. But the more you add, the weaker the message becomes. Confidence doesn't over-explain. It trusts that what was said is enough. A short message delivered with certainty has far more impact than a long one filled with emotional padding. A confident tone also respects space. It doesn't fear silence or delayed replies. When your words are secure, you're not watching the phone or rereading the message, wondering how it landed. That calm detachment changes the way a man experiences you. He feels your stability even through text. Stability is rare, and rarity creates value. Tone is revealed in pacing, word choice, and emotional weight. Confident messages feel balanced. They don't swing between extremes. They aren't overly intense or overly distant. They sit comfortably in the middle, and that comfort is what makes them linger in his mind. Men remember the woman who makes them feel at ease, not the one who overwhelms them. Another important part of tone is self-respect. When your tone reflects self-respect, it communicates boundaries without needing to state them. You don't need to demand attention or explain expectations. Your calm assurance speaks for you. A man senses that you know your worth, and that awareness influences how he thinks about you long after the conversation ends. Confidence also allows your message to stand alone. It doesn't rely on immediate response to feel valid. When a man reads a confident text, he feels no urgency to defend himself, explain, or pull away. Instead, he sits with the feeling. He absorbs it. That absorption is what keeps the message replaying in his head. Many people confuse confidence with coldness, but confidence is warm, it's composed, not distant. It shows interest without dependency. It allows you to be expressive without losing yourself. That balance is powerful. It creates emotional safety while maintaining attraction. A confident tone also signals emotional maturity. It tells him you can handle connection without losing balance. Men are drawn to women who feel emotionally steady because that steadiness brings peace into their lives. Peace is addictive. When your messages consistently carry that calm strength, a man begins to associate you with emotional relief. The beauty of confidence is that it simplifies everything. You don't need perfect words. You don't need long messages. You don't need constant communication. Your tone does the heavy lifting. It carries your presence, your energy, and your self-assurance straight to him. And once a man feels that through your words, it stays with him. He thinks about it not because you demanded his attention, but because your confidence quietly earned it. A powerful text should never chase, it should invite, because chasing puts you in a position of need, while inviting places you in a position of choice. Men can feel the difference immediately. When a message sounds like it's reaching for reassurance, attention, or validation, it creates pressure. Pressure makes a man pull back. But when a text feels like an open door rather than a demand, it pulls him forward naturally. An inviting message carries ease. It doesn't rush him. It doesn't ask for explanations. It doesn't corner him emotionally. It simply creates a space where he wants to step in. That's the kind of message that stays in his head because it feels good, not heavy. Men remember the woman who makes them feel relaxed, not the one who makes them feel managed. Chasing often shows up in subtle ways. Over-texting, double-texting, explaining your emotions too quickly, trying to keep the conversation alive at all costs. None of that feels inviting. It feels like effort. And men don't fall for effort, they fall for energy. The energy of an invitation says, I'm good where I am, and you're welcome here if you choose. That confidence is powerful. An inviting text doesn't require a response to feel complete. It stands on its own. It doesn't wait nervously for a reply. That independence is felt immediately. When a man senses that you're not emotionally hanging on his response, his curiosity increases. He wonders why you're so calm, why you're so centered, why your presence feels different. That wondering keeps him thinking about you long after the message is read. The tone of an invitation is light but grounded. It's warm without being needy. It shows interest without expectation. That balance is rare, and rarity creates attraction. When a man experiences communication that doesn't demand anything from him, he feels free. And freedom makes him want to come back on his own terms. Inviting also means knowing when to stop talking. Silence is part of the invitation. When you don't fill every gap with words, you give him room to move. Men bond through action. When you leave space, he steps into it. He reaches out. He initiates. He engages. That involvement strengthens his emotional investment. Chasing tries to control the outcome. Inviting allows the outcome to reveal itself. Control creates resistance. Allowing creates flow. When your messages flow naturally, without force, they feel authentic. Authenticity is magnetic. A man can sense when a woman is being herself rather than trying to get a result. Another important part of inviting energy is emotional self-control. You don't text when you're anxious, lonely, or reactive. You text when you're calm and clear. That emotional discipline shows strength. Strength is attractive. It tells him that your life is full and your happiness is not dependent on his behavior. That realization changes how he thinks about you. An invitation also respects timing. It doesn't demand immediate attention. It doesn't assume access to his emotional space. It simply offers connection and lets him decide how to engage.